Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our session on cybersecurity and data protection in cross-border paperless trade. We are thrilled to have you with us today, and just a few housekeeping things. We have a Russian-English simultaneous interpretation, so please check the right channel for you if you like to hear us in Russian or English. And also, we will be having the Q&A session. For this issue, we will be using the Q&A box. It's the bottom in the Zoom. Thank you again. Today's session, we will explore crucial aspects of cybersecurity and data protection in the realm of cross-border paperless trade. We will hear from experts on securing critical infrastructure and addressing data protection challenges. To begin our webinar today, I am pleased to introduce Mr. Jan Duval, Chief of the Trade Policy and Facilitation Section at the ESCAP, who will deliver the welcoming remarks. Jan, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Alexei. A very warm welcome to everyone to this webinar. I was looking at the number of the webinar, right? Because it's part of a series that we started in 2021 with the Asian Development Bank and the International Chamber of Commerce, right? And so this is the 16th, I believe, webinar on accelerating cross-border paperless trade at this point. And I'm very pleased to inform everyone that now it's not only a UN ESCAP ICC ADB webinar series, but it's also a WCO webinar series, right? So we've been interacting so much with the World Customs Organization's experts and customs experts during the past webinars that we said, okay, for this for 2024, let's make this a 4-partner organizations webinar series. So I'm very happy to welcome the World Customs Organization as a 4th partner for this webinar series, and in particular thank them for facilitating participation of Abu Dhabi Customs, which I understand is going to participate today, and also US Customs, right? I would like to thank all the 7 speakers. So we have a lot of speakers, so I don't want to take too much time. I just want to reflect, from the ESCAP perspective. As you know, ESCAP is the secretariat for the CPTA, the Framework Agreement on Facilitation of Cross-Border Paperless Trade in Asia and the Pacific. This is a treaty that aims to accelerate trade digitalization, right? Many countries are now part of it in the Asia and the Pacific region. And we have a lot of regular consultation, intergovernmental and with experts on how to advance cross-border paperless trade. And then one issue that I think is, or one question that comes up in absolutely every events that we organize is, how can we make sure the data that is and the document that are now being exchanged electronically, right, instead of on paper, are safe and secure, right? So this issue of cybersecurity for cross-border paperless trade is something that is very important. I think it's a very complex issue, right, that needs a lot of thought as we move forward in implementing cross-border paperless trade. And so this webinar series is really to start looking at it, right? Because it's in 90 minutes going to be difficult to address all the issues. But I really look forward to all the expert speakers that are going to share their views on this topic to give us and also all the participants, right, a little bit of insights on how can we ensure that the data and documents that are exchanged when we achieve cross-border paperless trade are exchanged in a safe and secure manner. So with no further ado, thank you again to all the participants and speakers, and I hope you all enjoy the webinar.
Thank you very much, Mr. Duval. Now we move into our first segment of the webinar, focusing on the cybersecurity of critical infrastructure in cross-border paperless trade. And I will be moderating this segment and introducing our esteemed speakers one by one when they will be having the presentation. Our first speaker is Mr. Kevin Chan, Program Administrator at the International Telecommunication Union. Mr. Chan, could you start by sharing how international organizations like ITU can support countries in ensuring cybersecurity of critical infrastructure?
Thank you very much, Alexei, and thank you very much to all the colleagues here and to the UN ESCAP, ICC, WCO, and ADB for inviting us and organizing this webinar today. If you allow me, perhaps I can share my screen so that I can briefly talk about the question you asked at hand. So at ITU, I wanted to first start very briefly by who we are. So we are the International Telecommunication Union, and you may wonder why are we at this webinar today. We're the oldest United Nations specialized agency for ICTs. We actually predate the United Nations with almost 159 years of history, and we were formed as the International Telegraph Union originally, which gives you a sense of our, let's say, age and longevity. What's important to note is that we have three key sectors. The first is on radio communication, which is about radio frequency and satellite orbiter slots. The second is on standardization. We are also a standards development organization like ISO and IEC. I raise this because at ITU, we actually have a standard X.509, which is on public key infrastructure from our ITU-T study group 17 on security. So of course, there's a lot of security related work that we at ITU are already doing from a standards perspective that I believe a lot of colleagues here are aware of. And finally, of course, development. We work to close and bridge the digital divide, including what's important to note from an international cooperation standpoint is that while we are composed of 193 member states, we also have over 700 industry and international organizations and over 150 academia members who are who help deliver together with as part of ITU to close the digital divide. I wanted to briefly mention that in this region, I am the cybersecurity focal point, and the membership has agreed on 5 key pillars or regional initiatives for us to work on. And specifically, if you look at the bottom, ASP5 on contributing to a secure and resilient ICT environment, that is one of the focus areas for us in this region, and which we work closely with the membership. So I wanted to talk briefly about the current state of cybersecurity in Asia and the Pacific as well. And to do that, to answer the questions, firstly, we should be using, we want to highlight the data that we have, the Global Cybersecurity Index, which measures countries' commitments to what we call the Global Cybersecurity Agenda against 5 key pillars: legal, technical, organizational, capacity development, and cooperation. One thing to note about all of this is that this GCI was first launched in 2015. We now have the 2020 edition. That is the most recent data, and we hope to have the 2024 edition later this year. The first thing to note from the data is that there is a wide variation in the Asia Pacific of countries' commitments, and this measures what's on paper against the 5 pillars as stated earlier. You can see from the screen here that there is a wide variation among the member states. With the max score of 100, there's some who are very close to that, and some who have some more, let's say, who are a little further behind. And so this showcased the cybersecurity divide within our Asia Pacific region. I wanted to break this down a little more at the granular level through a sub-regional distinction. So what you see on the screen is the overall scores of the GCI based on different sub-regions. And maybe I'll make one housekeeping note here. This does not cover the Central Asia countries, as our office covers from Iran to Kiribati and from Mongolia to New Zealand and everything in between. So we do not cover the Central Asia countries, which I know is covered by, which I know that is part of the ESCAP membership. So from our side, we can see that there are some major sub-regional distinctions between Australia and New Zealand, as closest to the who are close to the top first, followed by Northeast Asia and Southeast Asia very close together, followed by South Asia and then the Pacific Islands. When you look further at the Pacific Islands, you can see some sub-regional distinctions there between Micronesia, Melanesia, and Polynesia. And this, of course, affects how do we help member states further the cybersecurity digital divide. What should we be doing to address this? Specifically on a question about data protection, I wanted to highlight some of the lowest global cybersecurity index scores that we have in this region. Specifically, I wanted to highlight the number 2 on the screen, partnerships with the private sector, where you can see that the score is the second lowest, and it relates to having 1 or more PPPs with domestic companies and 1 or more PPPs with foreign companies in cybersecurity. And so this is a gap that we see in this region that would be of that may be something that should be considered for in this regard. Now, specifically, we can see within this region that data protection that there are still gaps in data protection. What I'm showing here is a sub-regional distinction against what we call cybersecurity regulation. And you see on the left side of the screen what these regulations are covered by this variable. And you'll see a major sub-regional distinction, similar to what you saw at the very beginning. At the score for Pacific Islands is 0.707, followed by South Asia at 0.53, and followed by the other sub-regions. So there is a lot of work that needs to be done, especially to help assist countries in this regard. When you look specifically at data protection rules, you'll also see that in this region, over half the countries, at least as of the 2020 data, do not have any breach notification rules, and over half of the countries do not have data protection legislation or have only drafted them in this Asia-Pacific sub-region. Sorry, when you break that down by the sub-regional distinction, on personal data protection, once again, the same trend applies. You see that over almost 75% of countries in the Pacific Islands do not have any personal data protections regulations in place. In South Asia, it's roughly 1/3 who do not have any in place, 1/3 who have it partially, and 1/3. And in Southeast Asia and Northeast Asia, around 35 to 40% of countries do not have that. So this is, of course, something that's very pertinent when we talk about cross-border data, paperless trade, and when we talk about data protection. With breach notification, what's immediately notable here is that in the Pacific Islands, as of 2020, there were no regulations in place in force on breach notification. Once again, the same trend applies with South Asia, Southeast Asia, and Northeast Asia following. And finally, of course, what you need to identify is what is considered critical infrastructure at the national level. And once again here, you'll see that in the Pacific Islands, over 70% of countries did not have any regulation in place on identifying what is considered critical infrastructure as of 2020 data. In South Asia, over half the countries did not have this as well. So I have shown you a lot of graphs. What do we do with all this data, though? And I think from my side, at ITU, working close to the partners, we usually respond to the cybersecurity gap through 4 key pillars. The first is on incident response, which is on working closely with countries to create national computer incident response teams to help them not just help assess and create them and establish them, but also to assess the maturity levels and enhance them. We also run global, regional, sub-regional, and national cyber drills to help test countries' readiness, including through scenario-based exercises and capacity development. On the second pillar, we work a lot on national cybersecurity strategies. We work with the countries to ensure that these NCSs are not just created, but that they also follow a life cycle so that they are iterated, updated, and implemented in line with new cyber risks and threats that may arise. On the third pillar, we have cybersecurity inclusion, which focuses on child online protection, including on child online protection guidelines we have globally, as well as women in cyber and youth for cyber. And finally, of course, data and advocacy is extremely vital with the GCI data that you saw today. And of course, webinars and events through global partnerships like this are very important. I'll stop here and thank you very much for taking the time to listen to me today. And perhaps I'll turn the floor back over to the moderator now. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chan, for setting the ground. And I see the figures you showed that we can clearly see that there are so many issues which need to be solved in the region. But I believe that the more or less situation we can see around the world. Thank you for this. And now I'd like to pass the floor to our next speaker. We have with us Mr. Sheikh Sufyan Ali. He is the head of information security at Pakistan Single Window. Mr. Ali, could you please discuss the key cybersecurity challenges that single window system face as a critical infrastructure, and what strategies can be implemented to address these challenges effectively?
Thank you very much, Alec. Let me share the screen.
You have 8 minutes, I must remember.
So I believe everyone can see my screen.
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay. So thank you very much, Alec. This is Sufyan Ali Sheikh, and I'm working as HOD Information Security in Pakistan Single Window. Today, I would like to talk about the cybersecurity and data protection in single window systems like PSW. So let's jump in. This is a quote, famous quote that security is inconvenient, but nowadays it's mandatory. So we will see why it's inconvenient and why it's mandatory. So these are the common threats single window systems like us are facing. These top 15 threat landscape report provided by European Union Agency for Cybersecurity. So we PSW has included these top 15 threats in our inventory of cyber threats to see that what measures we can took to address and countermeasure for these threats and to minimize the risk related to these threats. So why data protection is crucial in single window systems like PSW? Because we have to handle the sensitive information. We have all the trade data, import, export, transit of our country. So data is very sensitive. We have to maintain the integrity and trust for our stakeholders because uh, if we got breached or our data get lost or leak on dark web or Twitter or Telegram, then we can lose the trust of our stakeholders, and it is very like the reputational loss we get is like at par. So we also have to maintain the business continuity, the operational continuity, and we have to prevent the fraud and cybercrime with our customers, with our importers or exporters. We have to keep our data accuracy and reliability intact, and we have to support digital transformation as well because we are moving from paper to paperless. So this is the code that one single vulnerability any adversary or any attacker needs to breach in. One gap, one hole, one vulnerability can destroy the confidentiality, integrity of any system like PSW. So let me introduce that what we are doing, we actually centralize data exchange platform for trade facilitation. We have streamlined the trade processes and the benefit we get from it are like we simplify the trade procedures. We have reduced the transaction cost and time. And we know time is also money, so cost multiply by 2. So, and because of streamlined trade processes, we have enhanced the transparency and accountability. And how we work, we have a collaborative approach with government agencies, traders, and businesses. We have integrated technology for seamless transaction and data exchange. We have moved from paper to paperless. And in data protection, we have taken cybersecurity measures. I'm leading a department which have recently established, like it's the June is the 8th month I'm working over here. So we have started continuous monitoring and updates. We are using threat intel, contingency planning, BCP, cyber resiliency. We are working on that. And I will show you that how we are working on that. So PSW organizes its data protection functions in 4 divisions like DRC, Network Infrastructure Security, Application Security, and Security Operations Center. And here I have listed down some of the tasks handled by all these divisions. Like in GRC, we handle the framework, policy, baseline, standard, procedures. We have adopted ISO 27001, handling audit compliance, doing IS awareness for employer readiness, IS risk assessments, information classification, and IS program management for the maturity of our cybersecurity. In network infrastructure, we are working on benchmarking, hardenings, VAPTs, configuration reviews, gap assessments. In application security, we have adopt the concept of secure by design and zero trust architecture. And we are following secure software development life cycles, doing reviews, source code reviews, SARS, DAS assessments, and vulnerability assessment as well. In SOC, we have recently deployed SIEM and we have integrated our infrastructure with that SIEM, working on to mature the dashboard of that SIEM. We are fine-tuning the EPS, we are making use cases, and also drafting playbooks for our SOC. This thing has actually helped us in to respond quickly to improve our detection and response. And we are also working on threat intel sharing and collaboration as well. So I want to discuss here a few case studies. Like recently, we have experienced some attack, like a malware attack. We activated our EPP actually gave us alert of a malware. So on the like anomal detection. So we have actually with the single click, we have isolated that PC and start investigation on that, on forensic on that. And the thing we learn is that the timely backup is very important. And also it highlighted the necessity of conducting regular incident response drills, cybersecurity drills or tabletop exercises. So we have started it as well. And a phishing attempt, which we mitigate, actually, we start giving awareness training to our employees because there are so many things like social engineering, phishing, whaling, SMSing, voice solicitation, uh, what you can say, deepfake, and all those things we start giving training to our employees. And the outcome was that now they are reporting us. They are not clicking anything. They are not reacting on it. Instead, they are now reporting us and our SOC team involved to investigate. So what we are doing in cybersecurity and data protection, actually, we have identified 34 controls from ISO 27001, especially related to cybersecurity and data protection. We have started working on it. A few of them are already implemented. Few are partially implemented and will be completed by 30 June, and few are planned from 1st of July. The implementation of them is planned from 1st of July. So we believe these are the 34 controls regarding data protection. Every single window like us should work on that 34 controls. So few major enhancements recently, we have upgraded our firewalls to next generation firewall, and we have implemented network segmentation, micro segmentation. And with that, we have reduced the risk of lateral movement within the network. We have also implemented SIEM and integrated with our existing infrastructure. SIEM improved our threat detection and reduces our response times as well. So let's talk about what we are thinking, our future roadmaps, our upcoming projects, which will start from 1st July, our implementation of PAM, DLP, our email security gateway, EDR, XDR, and phishing simulation and cybersecurity awareness solution. Here we are adopting zero trust architecture. Let me show you which technologies we require to implement zero trust. We have to do network segmentation and micro segmentation. We require ENG firewalls. We have introduced MFA as well. We are bringing PAM, privileged access management as well. We have web proxies. We have EPP, but from 1st July, we are actually implementing EDR and XDR. We have encryption in transit and working on encryption at rest as well. Partially, it is completed. We are going to implement DLP from 1st July and ZTNA as well. So get back to this slide, and our long-term goals are like we are working on continuous improvement because maturity comes with the time, and we have to adopt new threats. Threats are emerging, and we have to keep track on that because maybe today is 15 threats, but tomorrow maybe 20 or 25 top threats. We are improving our threat detection and response capabilities. It is also in our long-term goal. We are strengthening data protection and privacy strategies, frameworks, and working on that as well. we are trying to foster a culture of cybersecurity awareness within our organization. For that, we are procuring a tool as well. And we are continuously updating and refining our strategies because, as I said, that threats are emerging. We are encountering new threats as well. So we have to shift our strategies according to the emerging threats. And we are working to enhance cybersecurity resilience because we are trying to introduce tabletop exercises. We are making CIRP, Cyber Incident Response Plan as well. So cyber resilience is important because we want to know that in any event of cyber attack, how much time is required to be in the market again, to be operational again. So this is very important. So the last thing, my favorite quote, 20 years to build a reputation, but a few minutes of cyber incident to ruin it. Because once you lose your integrity, the reputation loss means future business loss. Nobody wants to work with you in the future as well if trust gone. So thank you very much. That's all from me. And now I'm getting back to the moderator. Alec, floor is yours now.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ali. Single window, it's definitely a critical infrastructure. And I know that Pakistan single window, you're doing a great progress for the last 5 years, I think. And yeah, indeed, if you have this kind of already cases and we see that the strategy you developed already worked practice, it's really interesting to get information from you. And I hope to discuss in more details in the future with you how does it work. And actually, the single window, it's critical infrastructure, but the customs systems itself, they are critical infrastructure for any country. And now we have a two speaker from customs. And the first speaker, Mr. Thomas Dempsey from US Customs and Border Protection. And I have a question to Mr. Dempsey. Could you please discuss the primary cybersecurity threat that customs operation face today? Additionally, could you share any examples of critical incidents that we have occurred and that measures customs has implemented to prevent and respond to all of these threats? Mr. Dempsey, the floor is yours for 8 minutes, please.
So hello, and thank you for having me. So U.S. Customs and Border Protection, we are a large organization, and there are many threats that we're facing every day. So I'd like to focus on just a few of the cyber threats that we are concerned about and that we continue to monitor to ensure the continuous customs operations. So over the past 3 years, one of the consistent threats that we've been seeing is ransomware. From the ransomware incidents that have been reported to the U.S. Federal Bureau of Investigation's Internet Crime Complaint Center, there was a 15% increase in reported complaints from 2022 to 2023. The shift to using ransomware as a service has reduced the sophistication required to conduct the attacks and has put the capability in the hands of anyone who's willing to pay. So in recent years, we've observed ransomware used against multiple sectors within the U.S. to include targets such as the DC Police Department and infrastructure such as the Colonial Pipeline. Due to the limited skills needed to conduct these types of attacks, using ransomware as a service continues to be a threat that we're monitoring. So in addition to ransomware, one of the rising threats that we've been monitoring is increased phishing campaigns that are leveraging artificial intelligence to craft their emails. With the explosion of AI after the release of OpenAI's ChatGPT, AI in general has been a growing concern as capability multiplier in the cyber threat actors' arsenal. One of the areas that malicious actors have been leveraging AI in is to develop their phishing campaigns and craft believable emails to target our audiences. So with that, these emails have been growing, and as these capabilities continue, It is not the only thing that we're concerned about with generative AI, because they've also been leveraging this capability to do other things like deep fakes, where we've recently seen them used to impersonate high-level personnel in attempts to authorize transactions to fraudulent organizations and transfer funds and other activities. So generative AI is another area that continues to be a concern for us, and as that area continues to grow, we continue to monitor it. So the final threat that I would like to discuss is advanced cyber threat actors. So what we've seen in this area is the more sophisticated cyber threat actors are able to leverage novel techniques that are not easily detected to achieve their objectives. So we saw some of this with the SolarWinds attack. We saw the compromise of the supply chain and the cascading effects down to the consumers, allowing access into their networks. These advanced cyber threat actors are also able to leverage what is known as living off the land techniques. These techniques involve utilizing existing capabilities within the environment, so they're able to mask their presence and appear as if this is normal activity within the compromised environment. With there being an increased threat vector enabled through things like ransomware as a service and the malicious use of generative AI, analysts can only focus on so many things at once, which makes it more difficult to detect these advanced actors and techniques like living off the land. So in order for us to prevent and respond to these and other threats, we've implemented a robust cybersecurity program. This program consists of several areas focused on specific cyber functions to protect the CBP mission. These include areas such as training and policy to ensure the compliance of our environment and keep our users informed, security engineering to deploy and manage our tools, vulnerability management that ensures our systems are being properly patched, security operations to monitor our environment, and cybersecurity risk management to identify, report, and monitor cyber risk in the CBP environment. Due to time, I'll only focus on two of these areas to provide some insights into how we're leveraging our cybersecurity program to prevent cyber threats from impacting the CBP mission. Within our security operations division, we have a 24/7 SOC that continuously monitors the CBP environment for malicious activity. In addition to the active monitoring that is done by our SOC, we have a cyber threat intelligence branch that leverages open and closed source intelligence to identify the threats and the activity that is taking place by those threats that is of interest to our organization and could potentially impact us. This allows the team to proactively implement defenses into the CBP environment. In addition to the CTI team, our cyber threat intelligence team, within our security operations division, we have a cyber threat hunt team. So this team is dedicated to actively hunt for threats within the CBP environment that are using advanced techniques such as living off the land, as I discussed earlier. So this allows us to have the continuous monitoring of the environment while also dedicating a team to look for some of these more advanced and novel techniques. Along with the proactive defenses, in the event of an incident, we also have an incident response team to perform remediation, and we have a digital forensics team that is able to conduct digital investigations and detailed reports based on what has happened within the environment. So I've saved the best for last, which is our cyber risk management division. This is the newest division within CBP. There are three primary functions that we've been working on within this division. And the first is conducting risk assessments against our information systems that support the CBP mission. This process uses a data-driven holistic approach to examine key data points from those systems, along with the intelligence that we get from our cyber threat intelligence team, develop a risk profile for these information systems, and ultimately a baseline for the enterprise at CBP, so we understand the risk for each one of these systems that are supporting the mission and where we need to focus our efforts. So the second is the cyber acquisition risk management. Within this process, we work with our program managers and our project managers that are standing up new technologies in order to get ahead of the process with cyber. We want to embed cybersecurity best practices and principles into their process is for the acquisition lifecycle and when they are doing their development, not after they've already developed systems, so that we have secure by design implementations within all of our applications and within all the products that we are using within CBP. And then the third and last area that we have been focused on is a process for supply chain risk management. So with this process, we are looking at the suppliers that we are working with, and we're looking at available intelligence and information from those vendors to make risk determinations on whether they're a suitable fit for our organization based on what we know and based on their previous endeavors and what they're doing currently to protect their information, to ensure that if we do utilize them within the CBP environment, we don't put ourselves or any of our partners at risk from utilizing the technologies. So these two areas, along with other cyber areas and functions that we have within our cybersecurity program, provide us with the ability to address cybersecurity in our environment. Although our program is mature, as these threats continue to become more effective and efficient, we're always adapting and changing to protect our environment. Some of these things include we're implementing zero trust strategies and constantly prepping for upcoming technologies such as post-quantum encryption to make sure that we have things in place to support these technologies as they grow and as they're rolling out to ensure that we can protect the data within the CBP environment. So these are just a few of the proactive steps that we have taken to implement for CBP to protect the data and the overall customs operations from malicious cyber threats. And with that, I'll turn it back over.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dempsey. Special thanks to you that you're with us so early. I know that it's mid of night for you. And actually, the creation of the special center for cybersecurity at the CBP, it's kind of a reflection of the importance of this issue for the customs. And thank you very much for mentioning the particular threats and how you manage this, all of the attacks you have nowadays. Thank you very much for this. And continuing on this topic, our next speaker is Engineer Khalid Hassan Ali Al Marzouk from Abu Dhabi Customs. Mr. Al Marzouki, considering the threats discussed by Mr. Dempsey, could you share the strategies that Abu Dhabi Customs has applied to secure its operation against the similar cyber threats? Additionally, what best practices or recommendation can you provide to other countries looking to strengthen their customs cybersecurity framework?
Thank you very much, Alexei, and the team from United Nations Economic and Social Commission. Good afternoon from Abu Dhabi, United Arab Emirates. This is Khalid Marzouki. I'm the Director of Development and Strategic Planning Division, as well as the Director of the Project Management Office in Abu Dhabi Customs. It has been my privilege to lead the transformation journey at Abu Dhabi Customs during last 5 years, including overseeing our digital portfolio. I'm honored to join that esteemed panel today to share our experience, especially in the cybersecurity and how we are tackle it within our system to secure the movement of the trade and goods with the international trade and customs communities. During my presentation, I will go through it. We'll have overview about Abu Dhabi Customs, the ecosystem of the business continuity, cybersecurity, the disaster recovery, and all of these areas. If you allow me, I'll just share my presentation. Could you see my presentation?
Yes, we can see you. You can start at the presenting mode. Thank you.
So we'll start with the video, the first slide. So thank you to everyone to that quick video. So today we'll take you through Abu Dhabi Customs ecosystem for the cyber security. So going through the internal security shield, going to the external security shield. So we will start here where is Abu Dhabi Customs, where we have the perimeter firewall and the TLS and SSL encryptions, where you can see here all the system is on now. And in the left side, where the clearance system, inspection system, the X-ray machines, CRM, and other systems. And you see here the disaster recovery system is already in place and it is off now. But whenever this one is off, this one directly by default is gonna turn on. So I will take you through our current system where we are securing our trade and system and services. So we have the internal security shield. So Abu Dhabi Customs have different levels of security where you could see you have different systems embedded there where security information and event management, endpoint server security, endpoint detection response, and all of the different systems there for the internal security shield, including the data classification, identified access management, hardware security. So all of these around the internal shield, as you see, it's all is mentioned here. Then you go to the integration part, where it comes after the internal security shield, where all the securing file for transfer to the protocol, when it's coming to the electronic data interchange, going to the digital exchange platform. So then we have in United Arab Emirates the external security shield from the government itself, where there is a UAE pass, there is AD Connect, Abu Dhabi Connect with proxy layer, there is threat protection. This is where we have from the government and the external shield. So then we have the ecosystem in the cybersecurity comes with the channel. The channel either it is we connect directly B2G with the express courier, we have a mobile app, or we have B2G with the cargo. So we have one of our service platforms called TEM or Atlab, the single window platform, or it is blockchain. Then it comes with the stakeholder, the airlines, other government agencies, courier, shipping agent, banks, and the insurance companies. So here when we talk where I want to elaborate more about the business continuity and disaster recovery. So we are complying with different standards, as you see it here, from ISO's 22000 and the other ISOs. We have it, as well as the NCEMA and NISA. This is the standard for UAE government. As you see here, we have implementation life cycle, where we take this cycle for implementation with the business continuity and the DR, for start with the planning, going through the risk assessment, business, the BIA, develop the PCP and the DRP, define the RPO and RTO, implementation and integration, monitoring and alerting systems, automatic switch over and switch back, continuous improvement and testing. Then going to the training, which is most important thing, that whatever technology we bring in the ground, we need to make sure that we have a right capacity building, a right training for the staff. Here are the tools and systems where we are using with the DR process automation, data replication solution, and the backup solution. So here we just highlighted some of the results where it is 99.96 IT system availability, 0 system network disruption, 0-minute recovery point objective, less than 40-minute or more than 40 minutes recovery time objective, 100% success rate with disaster recovery, 100% aware of trained staff. Here, where we have an overview about our data management. As you know, the data, it is one of the crucial items in the cybersecurity. We have always to have the right governance on it, right quality, privacy in the data itself. So Abu Dhabi Customs follow the standard where for the ISO 8001, and we have from the government different standard, as well as our statistics center guidelines, and is aligned with the international trade statistics and data model in WCO, as well as the international standard DAMA. So the life cycle, as you see it here in the screen, for the data foundation, starting from the data governance, data quality, data catalog, and the master reference data, as well as the data security, document and content management. The tools and system, we have different system and tools here. You see the knowledge catalog, data profiling tool, data modeling tool, analytics platform, extract transform, the ETL tool, and the others. We reached to very advanced maturity results with the government. So we got 4.5 out of 5 advanced level in the data privacy and regulation. We got a first ranked entity in the government for the statistical maturity index with 97%, as well as we got 4.85 out of 5 the document and content management after implementing these full ecosystem. So when we focus more on the cybersecurity, we are following these standards with the ISO 27000, as well as other government law and regulation and standards. So the security pillars, as you see it here, information security strategy and plan, information security context, cloud security, penetration testing, file integrity, access control, training awareness, collaboration, information sharing. So a lot of pillars where we are focusing there in Abu Dhabi Customs. The tool and system, as I mentioned earlier, in the ecosystem, which I just showed in the first slide, that the endpoint detection response, data center firewall, data interruption, network security inspection, and all of other areas and tools and system where we are focusing on. What is the result? The result is we are 100% maturity compliance with UAE for 2024 as per the last report has been received. 100% security indicate responded, 0 system disruption. Today we thought to share with you some of the results, because it's good that when we present our model, always everyone's looking to see what is the result behind it. Most of these numbers is already from the third party, from evaluation from always third party or from government evaluation. So other result, as you see it here in the screen. So in general, after we implemented that system for the DR, for cybersecurity, for the business continuity, actually we get to the level at that we've been recognized from different organizations like Stevie Award from Harvard Business Council and other institutions. So we thought just to share it with you. The message which always we are trying to send it to all the communities and to our stakeholders, always that when the standard is there, when the all the regulation is there, and we follow the international standard as well as the local standard, for sure we can reach to very efficient result. So this is all of what I thought to share with you guys in that presentation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Al Marzouki. It's impressive, actually, the shift you had in the raising capacity of the infrastructure, and also the results you got implementing these different strategies for preventing the cyber threats. It's really impressive. Thank you very much for your insights. And I'd like to say thank you again to all of our speakers from the first segment of the webinar. And now we will move to our second segment, which will be focusing on cybersecurity and data protection issues in cross-border paperless trade. And this segment is particularly interesting as it brings together perspectives from the business sector and academia on these critical issues. Our first speaker in this segment is Ms. Timea Suto, Global Digital Policy Lead at the International Chamber of Commerce. Ms. Suto, could you please explain why data protection rules are important for building trust in cross-border paperless trade. Also, how can we make these rules more consistent across different countries to have business, especially small and medium enterprises, who struggle with this varying regulation?
Thank you so much, Alexei. Thank you for having me here, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening to colleagues joining us online. For those of you who don't know us, the International Chamber of Commerce is the institutional representative of over 45 million businesses, reaching more than 170 countries, and operates with a mission to make business work for everyone, every day, everywhere. We are the primary voice of the real economy in a range of intergovernmental organizations, championing the needs of local businesses in global decision-making. We've heard today about the importance of data protection regulation. Mr. Chan had really great graphics there showing the situation in Asia. Mr. Ali also reminded us about the risks of not having such regulations in place. We also heard good practices from the speakers on what are some of the practical and technical measures that they take to help mitigate these risks. So what I want to focus on today is what we do once we step beyond national frameworks and look at trading internationally, which, especially when we look at paperless trade, is supported by data flows. So let's look at what are some of the policy elements that must be in place to actually make this all happen. So first of all, why are data flows important? We know that the ability to transfer data across international borders is critical to companies of all sizes and across all industry sectors. Sending data from one country to another is a core element of both providing and using digital products, and now forms the bedrock of international trade in goods and services. At its core is the ability to transfer data across borders that ensures that we can access information regardless of our physical location. And any company that has employees, vendors, clients, or offices in more than one country needs to send data internationally every day, including to support operations such as managing global inventory through a centralized system, including routing products between countries, manage human resources across borders in compliance with the relevant legal requirements, to monitor the performance of products and services that they distribute globally, or to analyze cybersecurity data that many of our speakers talked about in different countries to identify and counter threat and intrusion patterns, right? So companies in all sectors engage in these ordinary activities, which support businesses of all types. And this can happen in sectors as diverse as farming, aviation, hospitality, mining, manufacturing. Companies are united in the need to transfer data across international borders. And regardless of their size, companies depend on the cross-border data flows to deploy tools that support teleworking, virtual collaboration, online training, and the remote delivery of services. This can include cloud-based libraries and databases, video conferencing applications, interactive collaboration platforms that can be leveraged by large and small companies alike. For small businesses, data flows represent a number of benefits, such as expanding market access, right? Cross-border data flows allow SMEs to access global markets without the burden of extensive physical infrastructure. They can reach international customers, suppliers, and partners more effectively. It also improves their customer satisfaction. Efficient data flows enable better customer service through prompt responses and seamless transactions, which can lead to higher customer retention and satisfaction. They also offer a competitive edge. With real-time data and analytics, SMEs can make informed decisions more quickly, stay agile, and compete with larger enterprises. And of course, it fosters innovation and growth. SMEs can leverage new technologies such as cloud computing and AI to enhance their operation and expand their offerings. At the same time, with all these benefits included, micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises are oftentimes disproportionately affected by regulatory requirements to assess third country data and privacy laws in order to transfer data. As this represents a relatively greater compliance burden on them than on larger companies who have a place dedicated teams to absorb such tasks. So still, cross-border transfers are critical to many SMEs, which often rely on global services to reach new markets and serve new customers. So to fully realize these benefits, what is needed are supportive policies in place. Nonetheless, knowing all these benefits and knowing the need for supportive policies, mistrust in cross-border data transfers continues to grow due to concerns that legitimate policy objectives such as privacy, security, consumer and human rights protection, or even industrial competitiveness would be compromised when data moves abroad. These concerns increasingly fuel restrictive policies and measures like digital protectionism, data mercantilism, and data localization, and have led to uncertainty that may discourage individuals, businesses, and governments' participation in a global economy, negatively impacting inclusive and sustainable economic growth. So what can be done to address this? And here I have 3 quick points. First, we must be clear on what is being regulated. Under the legal frameworks of most jurisdictions, non-personal data is defined by negation. So data that is not personal data. Non-personal data is generally deemed to be information which is not related to a natural person, which cannot be used to identify a person directly or indirectly. Personal data comes with a clear expectation that it must be protected and is generally afforded a certain level of protection because it relates to fundamental rights, such as privacy and important values such as data autonomy. Therefore, personal data must be clearly defined for ease of regulatory compliance. Non-personal data, on the other hand, does not carry a similar cohesive set of expectations, so policymakers should recognize that non-personal data is a term which is used to describe everything which is not related to a person. And given the diversity of that data, which is non-personal, the immense economic and societal benefit that this data can provide at an inherently low risk of adverse impact on fundamental rights is immense. So the default position should be to foster the transfer of non-personal data across borders and to facilitate voluntary data sharing. Secondly, and my point here is, I think, the most important, we need to enhance international cooperation. Trust is strengthened when governments adopt robust and comprehensive commitments to protect the rights and freedoms of individuals, including the protection of privacy and personal data. However, when we are looking at a patchwork of data protection regulations around the globe, it's increasing the complexity of legal requirements for companies to meet and thus the cost of compliance. So harmonizing such regulations across borders can minimize the barriers to data flows. Another concern to the flow of personal data across borders is the uncertainty around how personal data is accessed by others once it leaves the territory of a country. So trust is further strengthened when governments work together directly to reduce barriers to cross-border data flows and commit to protecting the fundamental rights to privacy, also when personal data is subject to government access. And this includes developing interoperable standards and agreements to address appropriate cross-border legal demands for data. Principles and safeguards for government access to personal data held by the private sector, such as the one developed by the OECD, are an essential first step in this respect. So I'm trying to make sure that I stay within my time here, so I'm going to try and limit my points. But what I wanted to leave you with is that also when it comes to non-personal data, this patchwork of regulations around the globe is increasing the complexity of legal requirements for companies to meet and the cost of compliance. Furthermore, several jurisdictions require companies to keep certain non-personal data within a particular geographic location. They require permission from regulators or additional reporting obligations to move data outside of the jurisdiction, or tracing of data through value or innovation chains. When such restrictions are not targeted and risk-based, their impact on non-personal data flows can take away a lot of benefits, and they can take a heavy toll on business, including preventing companies from aggregating and analyzing global data or from gaining economies of scale. They can hinder global supply chains relying on non-personal data flows to track products, and limit the use of technologies like AI that rely on large data sets and disincentivizing data sharing amongst companies. So what I wanted to leave you with is my third point, that it's incumbent, of course, upon companies to directly and comprehensively implement their legal obligations to protect privacy and security of data across the entire processing lifecycle of locations or locations of processing. But this is why governments should ensure that their policy and regulatory environments are up to date and reflect best practice regarding the high levels of privacy and security protection. So lack of interoperability across the policy and regulatory environments can create needless administrative burdens and compliance inconsistencies across jurisdictions, and companies cannot and should not be expected to be arbiters in these situations. There's a clear and urgent need to enhance international multilateral cooperation, identify opportunities to overcome differences, and explore commonalities in regulatory approaches and promote interoperability. So thanks for that.
Thank you very much, Tamia. Thank you for touching this relevant topic and the obstacles for traders to have the cross-border data flows. And we have heard from previous speaker that they are working a lot to secure data. And when we have in the cross-border paperless, when we have a cross-border trade, it's also it also had the data flows cross-border, right? So we have to find the proper balance between the secure data and also to allow data to go through cross-border. Thank you very much for touching this topic, and your recommendation actually very relevant, and I wish to discuss with you in more details. Thank you very much. Next, we have Ms. Gizem Kayshoglu, a maritime cybersecurity specialist from Istanbul Technical University. We have two ITU today. Istanbul Technical University is also ITU. Ms. Kayshoglu, given the critical role of maritime transport in global trade, what are the most significant cybersecurity threats currently facing in maritime industry? And how do these threats impact the efficiency of B2B information exchange?
Dear moderator, thank you very much. Good morning, dear audience. Firstly, I would like to state it's honor for me to join in and have contribution to this significant webinar. Today, I will present the topics of the importance of cybersecurity on the cross-border paperless trade systems, cyber incidents that have targeted these systems, possible cyber threat scenarios, and the cybersecurity mitigations for these systems according to various international standards and regulations. Let me share my screen. And yeah, I think you can see my screen.
Yeah, we can.
Okay. Is cybersecurity a real problem in the paperless trade system? Yes, we know that. All speakers mention about that, and it's obvious a real problem in this sector. But I would like to show this reality with two cases. One of them is on a port. A critical cyber incident happened at the export between 2011 and 2013. Drug traffickers employed hackers to hide cocaine in containers bound for the export by infiltrating the networks responsible for managing the goods contained within each container. According to the CyberKill, who is a security agency, the hackers managed to gain remote access to the terminal systems and thus had their own trackers load the containers without the knowledge of the port or shipping line officials. The incident is the first known cyber drug incident, and the other ones happened with the customs systems. A similar incident happened to X-Custom in 2012. The criminals hacked into X-Custom's logistics software to see if they were tracking their containers, and when they realized their containers were diagnosed as suspicious, they abandoned the containers and fled. So as rising the adoption of the cross-border paperless trade systems, the number of these cases will continue to increase in the sector. Rather than cases, several cyber scenarios can occur in cross-border paperless trade systems, each with the potential to affect various assets involved in international trade. The possible cyber threats can be data breach, ransomware attacks, phishing scam, denial of service attacks, insider threats, supply chain attack. In the data breach scenario, for example, a cyber attacker gains unauthorized access to the trade systems database containing sensitive trade documents such as invoices, bill of lading, or customs declarations. A ransomware attack encrypts critical trade documents and systems, rendering them inaccessible until ransom is paid. This scenario disrupts trade operations, causing delays in shipping, payments, or customs clearance. In the phishing scenario, cyber criminals send fraudulent emails impersonating legitimate trade partners, customs authorities, or financial institutions. And recipients are tricked into disclosing sensitive information such as login credentials or financial details. A DOS attack floods the trade system servers or network infrastructure with excessive traffic, causing disruptions in service availability. And this scenario leads to downtime in trade operations, preventing access to critical trade documents, communication channels, or transaction processing systems. And in insider with legitimate access to trade systems, abuses their privilege to steal trade secrets, manipulate trade documents, or disrupt trade operations. And in the supply chain attack, cyber attackers compromise a third-party service provider or vendor involved in the trade ecosystems, such as logistic company or customs broker. This compromise enables attackers to infiltrate the trade system and steal sensitive trade data or disrupt trade operation. So as the conclusion, each scenario needs a specific set of actions. To take specific actions, there are various standards for cybersecurity and data protection that some of them have already adopted by the stakeholders in the cross-border paperless trade. Standards on the screen should be focused more in the sector. For example, GDPR focuses on personal data protection, individual rights, and regulatory compliance within the European Union. APEC Data Privacy Pathfinder emphasizes cross-border privacy rules, harmonization of privacy frameworks, and consumer trust in the APEC region. CETS 108 established fundamental data protection principles and promotes international cooperation and supervisory oversight. And ISO 27001 provides a comprehensive framework for managing information security risks. In order to adapt effective cybersecurity strategies, firstly, identifying assets in the cross-border paperless trade systems is required to design effective cybersecurity management system. Then, according to the asset management, cybersecurity management plan is created by considering technology, process, and human milestones for each asset. In the cross-border paperless trade systems, assets can encompass various components, including data, infrastructure, applications, and personnel in these systems. So, for example, data assets include trade documents, personal identifiable information, financial records. Infrastructure assets includes network infrastructure, servers, databases, and cloud services. Application assets, trade management systems include trade management systems such as software application used for managing trade process, document exchange, and transaction tracking, and also includes communication platforms, customs, and regulatory systems. And the personal assets includes employees and partners, IT staff, and we can add these systems also SOC staff, Security Operational Center staffs. So each of these assets needs specific cybersecurity measures and strategies. As an example, cybersecurity management plan for data assets include implement encryption to protect sensitive data both at rest and in transit, enforce access controls to ensure that only authorized personnel can access trade documents and PII. Regularly backup trade data to prevent loss in case of a cyber incident. And in cross-border paperless trade, the protection of data integrity, confidentiality, and availability is promoted. These systems handle vast amounts of sensitive information, including commercial contracts, shipping documents, and customs declarations. Ensuring robust cybersecurity and data protection measures is critical to safeguarding this data from unauthorized access, data breaches, and cyber attacks. To strengthen cybersecurity and data protection in cross-border paperless trade systems, the areas require further attention, such as international collaboration, capacity building, public-private partnerships, research and developments, and regulatory harmonization. And at this point, at the regulatory harmonization, I can suggest to integrate additional international cybersecurity and data protection standards such as NIST SP 853, OECD Privacy Principle, or Cloud Computing Compliance Criteria Catalog, which are adapted by different parts of maritime sectors such as ships. So I would like to end my words by thanking everyone who contributed to making this important organization possible. And I give the floor to moderate again. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gizem. Thank you that you touch the topic of the cross-border paperless trade system and then what the programs should be adopted by international organizations like ESCAP, and to promote this, all of the principles you've shared with us. It's it's really insightful for us because we are working on this agenda, and definitely it will be useful for us to get back to your recommendation and probably to discuss it in more details. Thank you very much, Gizem. Our final speaker for today is Mr. Max J. Bobis, Vice President of Hudson Analytics Cybersecurity Practice. Building on the discussion about the various cybersecurity threats and strategies shared by our previous speakers, Mr. Bobis, could you provide insights into the major challenges in managing cybersecurity risk in maritime sector? Additionally, what key practices or approaches do you recommend for effectively managing this risk, particularly in the context of maritime transport and logistics? Thank you, Mr. Bobis.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate. Can you guys see me, or can you see my?
We can see.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah,
so what I'm going to do is, I realize we're running a little bit behind time. I'm going to share my PowerPoint and just talk through it. And let me make sure we can do that. And you guys see that okay?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. All right, excellent. So let me just take a moment and introduce you to who I am, what our company does, and I'll dive into answering your questions, Alexei, and get right to the point. So I run Hudson's Cyber Risk Advisory Practice. We're based outside of the Philadelphia area here in the United States, and we do a couple things. We do high-level strategy advisory for cyber risk management, and out of that comes a lot of training, program management. We do a lot of tailored threat intelligence as well, and plan writing. And a lot of the work that we do in terms of the plan writing is incident response and reviews. A lot of the work we do also is for underwriters and for cyber insurance, and that's going to play a role in how we look at cyber risk management from an organizational perspective. So I realize many of you on this call might be on the government side, but what's also important is your vendor universe that some of the speakers have already mentioned in terms of how to manage risk to those vendors in terms of supply chain. So what are we seeing in the maritime supply chain? And when I talk about the maritime supply chain, what am I talking about? I'm talking about shipping. I'm talking about port authorities, terminal operators, and any entity that really resides within that ecosystem. It could be trucking, third-party logistics providers, warehousing, it could be stevedoring companies, rail. You have the whole ecosystem in these environments. And as Mr. Dempsey and some of the others have mentioned already, ransomware continues to be a major problem as well as hybrid threats that are also emerging and being accelerated by the introduction of artificial intelligence and machine learning capabilities. But what we see, especially in this supply chain, which customs and cross-border trade facilitation touch on, is organized crime. So the European Union Agency for Cybersecurity publishes some very nice documentation. This one's about a year old, or a little bit over a year, but overall, the statistics that we see are fairly consistent. Over here in the middle of this center donut, this orange or this peach-colored area here represents the criminal activities that are represented in the threat domain. And motives are typically financial oriented. Certainly you have nation states, hacktivism and hackers that are making inroads and causing problems. But for the most part, when we talk about the maritime supply chain, it is organized crime and criminal elements. So which entities we find that are the most commonly targeted in these environments? It's basically port authorities and port operators. Rail, other service providers do come in behind that. But for the most part, we see that as an overwhelming representation in this environment. And within those organizations, the individuals that are most heavily targeted are this C-suite, so the managing directors, your CEOs, and your financial leadership, your chief financial officers, your comptrollers. So those tend to be the heavily targeted individuals, especially when you get into some of these more sophisticated, advanced, persistent threats or hybrid threats that are emerging in those areas. So again, I'm focusing on ENISA because a lot of information is actually provided out there, and sometimes they tend to be a little bit ahead of the U.S. in terms of publishing for a wider audience. But some of the things that we're seeing, and I'm not going to read this list, but the things that we're seeing heavily are supply chain compromises. We do a lot of work in port community system environments or maritime single window environments. And supply chain I would fully agree with everything that we're seeing. This is a major challenge in the maritime supply chain, is really understanding the threats that are emerging in those areas, the vulnerabilities that are exploited by third parties to access other targeted entities. And part of the challenge that gets really exploited is the human side. Human error is really a major issue, both on the user side as well as the skills shortage in this industry. The maritime supply chain tends to be underserved when it comes to expertise regarding cybersecurity. And when we look at targeted attacks across the port ecosystems, the maritime supply chain, these supply chain compromises can cascade fairly quickly and result in a lot of financial losses that the end users experience. Gazim mentioned some of the things that they target inside these organizations. I'm not going to go into those too detailed here, but I do want to reaffirm one thing that she touched on, and really that is involving the enterprise resource planning systems, the ERP software packages, where they really serve as the brains of these organizations. And what does it do? It manages and oversees the movement of money and data. So that's where information gets created, processed, exchanged, stored, and it moves in and out of different organizations across borders. And so when you look at what's going on in the port community environment, you see a lot of consolidation going on in terms of funding digitalization projects that are creating more efficient port community systems and the leveraging of maritime single window capabilities. And so, of course, that's where money comes in and out, right? And so one of the things that I want to emphasize here is that when we look at the managing risk to these organizations, technology is a great force multiplier, but it is not the be-all and end-all of cyber risk management. The human factor plays a massive role in all that. So for the sake of time, I know there's so much we can cover on this, and a lot's already been said, but I do want to leave everybody with a couple things that we see in terms of how to proceed. You know, if you're looking at trying to come to terms with your cybersecurity program, the first thing I recommend is an enterprise assessment. There's a lot of different assessments out there. I would highly recommend you implement what we call a maturity model-based assessment. And there's different types of maturity models. ENISA's published free guidance out there. The International Association has done something similar. Both advocate for a maturity model approach. And why am I pushing for a maturity model approach? It's because it's not necessarily a checklist-based audit. It's really about establishing a consensus-based approach to understand What does your organization have? Where is it strong? Where are the gaps? And then work out a plan from there. The other thing, and some of the other speakers have touched on this, is really understand what you have. What is your inventory of critical assets? Digital assets are an asset, just as critical as your infrastructure, right? You might have a network infrastructure that crosses, national environments or even transnational environments. So they tend to be geographically complex and spread. And so don't overlook your inventory in terms of digital assets. One thing that gets overlooked a lot is that in these environments, the clients that we work with, we often find a major challenge is insofar as the disconnect between buyers and sellers. And I don't necessarily mean buyers being government agencies and then sellers being commercial vendors. I'm really talking about the individuals inside your organization. So a buyer could be your chief financial officer. Your seller could be your chief information security officer, and they really, at the end of the day, don't speak the same language. So too often I've sat in meetings in executive suites where I see the two of these individuals talk past each other. And oftentimes the individuals who don't have the training in cybersecurity, they throw up their arms, they give up, and they give in to the certain demands of information security leadership. So one of the ways to cut through that is to establish a common denominator for language. And that common denominator is the language of money. And so what I recommend is not only once you put your plan together, once you've assessed your organization, you understand what your assets are, really understand what are the things that could happen that could really damage the organization? What are those scenarios? And really, the best way to do that and to come up with those most meaningful, most appropriate scenarios for your organization is to develop a little working group populated by senior leadership representing all areas of your organization, not just the IT department. And you need those insights from other leadership so you understand if you have an investment or an activity or a control that's implemented in one area by perhaps the information security leadership, you have to understand how that's impacting the business operations in other areas, whether it's through training, administration, financial controls, other operational elements that go on, and then understand how a
I'm sorry,
specific scenario.
Mr. Bobis. Sorry
Yeah.
for interrupting you, but already time is up and you had 10 minutes already. Please wrap up your presentation. I'm really sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah, no problem. So I would also establish a supply chain risk management program as well. And Mr. Dempsey talked on that, and then test those plans. Again, other speakers have talked about these things in terms of incident response, disaster recovery. Train your staff, engage your vendors, and bring them in as part of exercises internally. And then finally, sustain your resources. Make sure you have the people, the processes, the tools aligned within a sustainable budget. And that's it for my presentation. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Max, for your comprehensive insight and the program you shared with us. It's really interesting. And I'd like to thank all of our speakers for their enlightening presentations. And now we have a few minutes left to open the floor. And I already read the questions you shared in the Q&A. And I found out that most of you, they would like to know that if there will be a presentation be shared with you. Yes, they will be uploaded to our website for the webinar, as we usually do. And we also will publish the link for the video. So we had around 350 experts registered for this webinar. So who is not with us today, so they will join and to watch online. And I can have one or two questions from the ground. I saw the question in the chat to Mr. Sufyan Ali about the integrity and confidentiality. Do you want to comment this question, Mr. Ali?
Yeah, sure, Alex. I have also answered it privately. Actually, in a paperless model, ensuring integrity and confidentiality typically involves the use of digital signature solutions and encryption methods and secure data transmission protocols. And yes, we are using it in our environment.
Thank you. We had also the question to Thomas Dempsey, and could you share the conversation rate about CTI inputs to actionable intelligence? Thomas, can you please?
Absolutely. So that was one of the key elements when we developed the cyber threat intelligence program, was to make sure that what's being pulled in can be actioned and we can utilize it within our environment to further our operations. And two of the key ways that we do that is using a threat intelligence platform. So we pull in open source and closed source reporting into that platform. And from there, we're able to process it and send it over to our other tooling, such as our SIEM, in order to run the indicators of compromise against our environment to ensure that we're not compromised, and then take those indicators and apply them to our additional tooling, such as firewalls, to put in blocks and put those proactive measures in place in order to action that intelligence. We do use other methods to action it as well, to support our senior management by briefing out what we're seeing within the environment so that they can take action to ensure that they're properly allocating resources to patch their equipment and the systems that are at most risk based on the activity that's being seen.
Thank you very much, Thomas. I see there is no any other question in the chat right now. Actually, I had a question to Mr. Al Marzouki. I really like the slide you shared with the different perimeters of your program, and there was one perimeter about the kind of national segment, national hub for cross-border information exchange. Can you please elaborate more about this? What program do you have in order to allow Abu Dhabi customs to have information exchange to other customs? And what are the measures you are using for securing this channel for customs to customs information exchange?
Hi, Alexei. Do you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, I do apologize. Mr. Engineer Khalid was obliged to leave for a commitment with the higher management. We can share with you the details and with our audience as well about this slide later on, if you don't mind.
Okay, so I
Thank
will
you very much.
continue to add this question. Okay, thank you. I think time is up. So yeah, I'm really sorry that we don't have time to discuss more. I realize that this topic is so wide. We have reflected many aspects, and there's so many ideas what we can do together to provide a kind of a program for our members, for our member states. And in the framework of cross-border paperless trade agreement, there are the different aspects, as Jan de Waal said, erased every meeting, and we can also think about how to reflect all of the recommendation you've provided with us today. And as for the closing remarks, I would like to ask our partner organization, World Customs Organization, and Juan Diego Echevarria, Technical Officer from World Customs Organization, to provide a closing remark. Thank you very much, Juan, that you're with us, please.
No, thank you, and thanks to everyone for your participation. As we come to the conclusion of this webinar, I would just like to take a moment to reflect on some of the key takeaways, and again, to express our deepest gratitude to everyone that was involved. So today we have delved into the crucial realm of cybersecurity and data protection within the context of cross-border paperless trade. This topic is not only pivotal for the integrity and security of international trade, but also for the overall stability and trust in our global digital infrastructure. So from the perspective of the WCO, cybersecurity is an essential component to facilitate and secure global trade. And as we transition towards a more digital and paperless processes, the risks associated with cyber threats become increasingly significant. Ensuring robust cybersecurity measures is not only critical for customs operation, but also for the wider society, impacting trade, business, and national security. So throughout today's webinar, we heard from the experts about the complexities of securing critical infrastructure, the challenges in complying with diverse and data protection regulations, and of course, the innovative technological solutions that can help mitigate these risks. These insights provided by the speakers were invaluable in understanding the current landscape and the necessary steps that we need to take to enhance our cybersecurity posture. So I would like to extend special thanks to all our participants and organizers for making this event possible. Our heartfelt gratitude to the International Chamber of Commerce, the Asian Development Bank, and of course to ESCAP. And as Mr. Jan Duval highlighted in his opening remarks, we hope that WCO partnership with UNESCO will be fruitful for this future of this webinar series. To our speakers, thank you for sharing your expertise and insights. Your contributions certainly have enriched our understanding and provided practical strategies to address cybersecurity challenges from cross-border paperless trade. And thank you all once again for your participation. Let us continue, collaborate, and innovate for safer digital future in trade. From my side, I wish you all a great day ahead. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Juan, and for your closing remarks. And I'd like just to tell that we will definitely proceed with our webinar series, and I'd like to open the curtain. What will be the next series? The next series will be connected to the cybersecurity aspects, and it will be about digital identity for cross-border paperless trade. So we'll see. I hope that we will have the next series in August. We will announce. Please subscribe to our channel, and also you can contact me. And of course, the whole presentation will be uploaded, and you can have a look at the video after that. Thank you very much to all of our speakers and contributors today, and thank you for all of the participants that you join us. Have a nice day, night, evening. Thank you very much. Goodbye.